And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Alexander Agunas, the Everyman Gamer, and tonight I'm joined by the most intrepid Starfinder on this side of the galaxy, Vanessa Hoskins.
Oh my goodness, I'm not the most intrepid. We have people that are more intrepid joining us today.
We certainly do. Today we are joined by the titular editors of The Void. I'd like to introduce Leo Glass and Kieran Newton. Yeah, I almost forgot your last name.
Hi.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Welcome. So you guys are new faces here on No Direction, correct?
It's true. It's true. This is my first time. And I
Yes,
think
mine
Kieran's
is,
as
mine as
well.
well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Well, we have a tradition here on the No Direction Network, and that tradition is whenever we have somebody new on the show, we ask them, how did you get involved in tabletop RPG gaming, specifically writing for it? Because as we know, it's a very difficult, very
or in this case,
narrow
editing.
field. Yeah.
Mine is a backwards path. Do you want to go first, Kieran, or do you want me to go first?
Sure. Mine is very easy. Managing editor Judy Bauer hired me, and then I became an editor at Paizo, and then I started doing some writing for Paizo, but mostly I am still doing that. I do not have a big tabletop background besides playing a bit in high school. And before this, I was editing industry analysis reports on Wall Street. That was very fun.
That sounds
comparatively way more fun than all of the science fiction stuff, honestly.
Really? That sounds drier than Akaton, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That is apt.
Leo, do you want to regale us?
Oh, well, so I started playing RPGs in college. So I was a bit of a late bloomer for some folks in that way. But I started playing fantasy RPGs, but then I quickly kind of latched on to lots of them. And I think I've GM'd, I think when last time I was on a stream, it came out that I've GM'd something like 40 or 50 different game systems.
Wow.
And love, and kind of fell in love with game mastering, honestly. And kind of did that through college and then out of college. And that stuck with me. And I took a job as a curriculum developer. I was writing curriculum that helped teach honestly, nonprofits that work with college students, how to train college students. And I did a lot of that. So we used gamification and a lot of different, we basically tried to make things fun to teach people concepts that usually aren't so fun, like leadership, et cetera, without making it kind of kitschy, and icebreakery, that sort of stuff. So anyway, I did that. And I loved that career, and it made me a pretty strong writer, made me a strong editor. My background is in English. I actually have a degree in English from the University of Nebraska, but I wanted to do more with that. And I said, you know what? I loved video games. And so I decided to start my own independent video game studio. So I quit that job. I moved back to Nebraska and I started making small independent games that were story-based. And I had a team, and it's funny now, as I look back on it, 3 out of the 4 members of that team all work at some sort of game studio.
Oh my gosh.
And so we started this little thing, but I've got a friend who's on that team at Harebrained Schemes. I've got another friend who works at Infinity Ward on Call of Duty, and I work at Paizo. And so in our respective disciplines, animation, development, and writing and editing, we all kind of made it into the games industry.
That's so cool.
So that was cool. But anyway, the point of that story is I did that for a while. But then if you know anything about starting companies, we did a Kickstarter. we failed. We didn't make our goal, and we all had to go get jobs. I took a job as a technical editor at a university while saying, I'm going to work in games again. I'm going to do this, right? And so I ended up applying to Paizo eventually. And after having 4 years as a technical editor at a university in grant writing, I went on to get this job. And then I became a writer in games, freelancing while also being an editor. So I found my way back into the industry and then got opportunities to write. And I think I've written, I don't know, 20 or so different different articles or things like that. Merchants of the Void was my first Adventure Path volume, so I had never done that size of a project before, but I've cut my teeth now there. But anyway, that's my story. It was a long and twisty path to find where I wanted to be.
But you did it, and that's great. So,
Right?
I mean, Kieran, you worked on Wall Street?
Yeah, we don't have to talk a lot about that.
And Leo, you wrote grants. So what's one way that editing for Paizo is similar to Wall Street and grant writing, and what's one way that it's different?
So the technical skill is really still needed. I don't think people realize, because to be a grant editor, like if you want to submit something to the National Science Foundation, and you are off in any of their 100-page style guide, like if you don't use, I believe it's 10-point Georgia or 10-point Helvetica, and you don't format things correctly using the right H1s and H2, just like editing for Paizo, frankly, things can be pretty difficult as far as the way things get laid out, etc. So I would say a similarity for grant writing is that you need to be able to read 100-page style guides, interpret them, ingest them, and then also read 600-page core rule books, understand them, ingest them, and apply all of that technical. I think people sometimes when they hear editor, they think like copy editor, and like, no, that's actually
like you
really
fix the grammar or something.
Yeah. That's something we do. That's something we do, but you have to have a lot of technical knowledge to be an editor in the games industry, and especially in tabletop role-playing games. So I need to think of a way it's different, Kieran, so help me out if you got one. But that's the way I think it's similar, at least.
I mean, I think so. I mean, yeah, the similarities, I mean, attention to detail is a skill that will serve you well no matter what you do, but our job is kind of all detail, so that is always the most important thing. But actually, that's what Leo brings up a really good point at the end there, which I think one of the biggest differences is the extent to which the people that I work with at Paizo understand what it is that we do beyond the editing team. Yeah, I mean, yeah, listen, people on Wall Street did not know what I did to make their reports nice, and I made their reports very nice. I do love the analysts over there. Hello, if you're watching. I don't know why you would be. Anyway, I would be okay. No, I don't know. Not that I don't know why, but I would be surprised. Let's say. But yeah, the degree to which I have support in making the products better in all of the different ways besides grammar. My last job, they tried to ask if we could start using Grammarly, that thing that advertises on YouTube. And
your eye twitched right there.
Yeah, if that would make our lives easier. And thankfully they did not end up doing it, but nobody has even suggested that at Paizo because they know what we do.
Oh, good. Okay. Lava Being suggests that you use more better words.
Yeah, right. That's the key. Yeah, just use more better words.
Bigger the word, the higher the points. Gotta make the points go up.
Says Grammarly, I see.
All your base belong to us. Yeah, I would love. Yeah. I would love to put a stat block into Grammarly and just watch it like, smoke up and heat up and hopefully not destroy my iPad. But I would love to do it.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
I mean, that sounds like a great sounds like a great geek together to me, Vanessa. What do you think?
That sounds really fun.
Destroy conventional editing software with Paizo stat blocks.
With
Paizo, good.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Mm-hmm. So speaking of non-conventional editing or conventional editing, what's like one so we can get an idea more for like what editors do, what are some maybe anecdotes of things that you've done? You're like, oh, this happened and I fixed it because I found this thing that maybe you saw.
Oh man,
I can tell you. I think mistakes are more fun to talk about personally.
Yes. Okay.
In some ways.
Are there any that you can talk about that you won't bruise any egos?
Well, yeah, I think so, because I'm going to ruin mostly my own ego. Right
Okay,
here.
good.
So for those of you who played, and it's a Pathfinder story, not a Starfinder story, but I'll think of some Starfinder ones too. But Pathfinder story I have was we edited, obviously, the Doomsday Dawn playtest adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, to this day, I can't play with dire rats. I will not run a dire rat. I will not fight. Like if you were running a game for me, Alex, and you're like, a dire rat comes, I'll be like, nope, I'm done. I can't dire rat. And here's why I can't dire rat, because we edited that playtest adventure. James Case and I went through that sucker with a fine-tooth comb. And to your question, Vanessa, editing is, in my opinion, an application of 5 different lenses at any time. You've got your rules lens, you've got your copy editing lens, you've got your playability and usability lens, like can someone run this? And that sort of interfaces with the rules lens. You've got your art and presentation, like formatting lens. Does the art fit what's going on? And then you've got your sort of kind of related to grammar, but just is it palatable as a product lens?
Yeah,
and
does it read well?
Yeah, those 5 things should be sort of circulating, and you're flipping the switches as you go through. And then, there's style adherence too, which is sort of in the format one, and knowing the style guides. Anyway, that's important, because where we failed is in that adventure. We read the thing, and there was a mention of there was a stat block of the dire rat, but the dire rat was not anywhere else in part 1 of that adventure. And that dire rat murdered people in playtest like it was going out of style. And Daigle missed it. I guess I am throwing him slightly under the bus, but I think he'd be okay with that. I missed it for sure.
Yeah.
And that was one of that's a war story for me, because I still, I did a thing at PaizoCon where I did like an arena with all the editors, and I had a dire rat like in there that I wanted them to murder over and over, because I just need dire rats to die now, and it sticks with me as a thing I missed, and will forever probably.
Well, that just makes me want to put dire rats in absolutely everything I write now, just with the hope that it crosses your desk.
So, question then.
We'll make sure to call it out. Don't worry.
Okay.
When we play Fly Free or Die, if I go and get a dire rat companion, will it draw all the aggro?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about what diseases and afflictions your character has.
Oh no! I don't think Asai could pass any of those fortitude saves.
All the saves I'm going to make you. For those of you who don't know, I run Fly Free or Die on Saturdays for Vanessa and Alex as well. So
yeah, got some Paizo staff and some freelancers playing, and it's a blast. So speaking of Fly Free or Die, I am curious how this works. So the second book of that adventure path, Leo, you wrote. Do you end up editing your own stuff, or does that have to go to another set of hands? How does that all work when you were freelancing?
I'll let Kieran answer that one.
Yeah, sure. So whenever, especially on the edit team, I can't really speak to how the other teams handle it. But when any of us is writing a section, we make sure that absolutely we are not editing our own work.
Right.
Whenever possible. I mean, capacity is a thing. But yeah, I was lead editor on Fly Free or Die as a whole. I worked really closely with Jake throughout the whole process. And I'm really excited actually to talk specifically about Merchants of the Void and to have Leo here to do it. Because it was a really interesting challenge for me. Obviously, Leo is my boss now, but at the time, Leo was lead editor, still sort of senior to me in the department. And it was a totally different relationship, just because, of course, Leo wants his adventure to be as good as it can be, and so do I. And my job, of course, in doing that is to figure out, okay, what if people missed? What can be done to get what Leo intends across to the players, to the GM as much as possible. And I'm really excited about Merchants of the Void, especially if folks haven't seen it or played it yet, because I think we did some of the best work in the whole AP is in that. And certainly some of my first successes as a lead editor for Paizo. I'm trying to think
the fifth
of
lens. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's the fifth lens I forgot that Kieran's talking about, is the story lens. Is
Right.
we're telling stories, right?
Mhm.
And Kieran, I think more than any other editor as editing lead on Fly Free or Die, from what I saw when I was senior editor, really dug into the story. And Jake and them were having conversations daily about how do we really make this compelling? Because Fly Free or Die took a lot of risks that in some ways I think other APs don't, and that it really wanted to allow folks to branch out and try to explore arcs and come back and explore different types of ideas. And if you want to be, kind of more morally ambiguous in a way, you can, and explore what characters would be who are just trying to survive. And some of the conversations that I overheard and witnessed and sort of even had input on with Fly Free or Die were really fascinating, because Kieran was like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? And it was cool because I was there to be able to give input when asked, but I also trusted the process and was really, really surprised in a good way when I saw what happened, because I felt like the manuscript really benefited from Jake and Kieran working in tandem. So
if we're talking about anecdotes, easily my personal favorite is actually the very end of Merchants of the Void, which, no spoilers, don't worry. But Leo, you initially wrote something that was very different to happen at sort of like with the main character, with the player characters flying away from this final location in the volume. Sort of the timber of that sort of interaction and kind of what the sort of fallout of your actions over the AP. Leo had one very specific thing in mind. And so I think, Leo, you talking about the lenses of editing, I think is really astute. And I think one of the parts of that is knowing when to bring together more than one, to see beyond a specific lens.
Yes.
So I knew that this was fine. It was readable. It was playable. This very final sequence. But I knew what Jake wanted to do with Fly Free or Die overall. I knew that for the second volume, very specifically, one of the things that we were looking at, and Leo himself has echoed this to me, is that, it's a lot about sort of finding family and finding community in a world that wants you to be isolated and alone. And even as you do that to make it through the day, you have to do it for yourself rather than because it'll make the world a better place.
Right.
And so I came to Leo, my senior, had been at this job a lot longer, had a lot more war stories than I have. And I said, hey, I want to change this final page. I think if we do this instead, it gets at more of these things. And Leo was like, damn, yeah. And it was great. I we talked to Jake about it, and Jake was like, this is a really cool change.
yep,
and if I'm really happy with it. And those are the kinds of things that I always try and do with Starfinder, especially because I think the world is so cool. And there's so many different diverse and strange and unexpected things that can happen. And I always want to give players just a little push. Just
No, it's
say,
good.
hey, where are you going with that?
Good.
What do you think?
Good developers set up the pins. Good editors knock them down. And I think that's in my opinion, a great example. I wish we could talk more specifically about it, but we don't want to spoil the ending. But I will say,
Sure.
read volume 2. Look
Okay.
at those last couple pages, and I think you'll get it.
So you're telling me to go ahead and read the adventure that
So
you
I
want
should
me to
open
do?
this
not
right
you,
now.
not you,
But you just said to read it,
Starfinder
so.
verse. Yeah, right.
Because I
Oh,
mean,
I
like,
see.
I need to have all the rules options, and that book has some amazing player options in it, so I own it. I just
It's true.
there's like on my shelf, there's like a paper clip on the entire adventure part, so I can only open to the parts with the rules, with the
That's
player
clever.
rules.
That's a really good idea.
That's a good player. That's a good player right there.
That's a good idea.
Listen,
Thank you.
I don't benefit from cheating. Like it just devalues the experience for myself.
Sure.
Exactly.
But I think I think the typical No Direction audience member would be surprised to hear that that editors have I guess the pull is the best way to put it, to go up to a developer or a designer and be like, yo, let's change this around. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process that you guys like use to give feedback to other creative team members in Paizo?
Trust is inherent to that process. I mean, and I mean, in our process is very collaborative. I mean, sure. I get asked, about style guide questions and grammar questions too, because that's my job. Ultimately, like that's our purview, and knowing Chicago manual style. But like a lot of times when we're working through challenges, or now, I mean, especially with outlines, editors are doing more outline reviews, and we're really working to get editors more involved as early in the process as possible. And that's been something that's kind of transitioned over the last couple of years. And it wasn't our idea. Developers and designers are saying, this is really cool to have your input earlier as a story editor, to talk about the organization and the beats. We want you in the process earlier. As soon as we have a manuscript to work over, we want to make it a collaborative process. And especially, frankly, because of the way things work with Pathfinder and with Starfinder, sometimes there are editors definitely that, in my opinion, have the chops. I don't want to lose them, but they could be developers, frankly. And we have talented developers who were editors and are great editors, like Jason Keeley and Logan Bonner. A lot of people.
And
got
Jake, the lead developer on Fly for Your Die.
Yeah, exactly. So
Liz Lydell, James Case. Wow, there's a big list, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And so, frankly, there's a lot more synergy than I think most people realize, because in a lot of companies, editor means copy editor, but at Paizo, editor is a lot closer to developmental editor. And we have, but yeah, I love that. I love that. My day usually encompasses a couple conversations with, I mean, I'm the editing lead on Guns and Gears, and Michael and I have been able to go back and forth, hashing out a lot of different ideas there. And I love that personally. I don't think I'm the editing lead of any Starfighter project.
Do you hear that? Do you hear the sound of a million No Direction fans racing to your Twitter to start spamming you with spoiler requests for Guns and Gears?
Oh yeah, that's
bring it on! Bring it on!
I'll say no to all of you.
No, don't open that gate.
They won't get spoilers from me, but we can talk about them.
Well, go follow Leo, and maybe you'll get something eventually.
You'll get something the day after the book comes out.
Exactly.
Mostly tweets about our Starfinder game, I think, but
probably.
Yeah.
But it's a good game.
Leo's so right though. It all comes down to trust. And that's been, and also just like kindness, because everybody is working on so many things at once. And it goes really both ways, right? We have to know that as we catch things, it's not because anybody didn't do their job. Everybody's doing a great job. And at the same time, the people in front of us have to be comfortable when we say, hey, this isn't as good as it could be. We can work together to make it better. And that's a big hurdle. That's a step to get past. And, at Paizo, I think we've done a really good job of overcoming that, and the products are way better for it.
I know. I will say, as a freelance author for Paizo, I know that my stuff is in good hands. And as much as I look at it and go, "This is so great," and I turn it in, I always know that my developer and my editors have my back and will make it so much better. Like whatever I did, they're just gonna make it even more amazing. And it's that collaboration that really does it. And they also, y'all also always fix dumb mistakes. I had a room where there was an obviously magical effect happening that I described in the text box but didn't explain. And it was really obvious to say, this is a permanent illusion, move on. But like, because it was kind of obvious and presented as such, but it was like, Yeah, I'm so glad someone actually spelled that out, because you know how many players are gonna be like, I don't know, it says there's this thing in the room, it doesn't make sense, it's not explained, no one knows what's happening.
The
So
lens of usability. Yes.
lens
There
of
you go.
usability.
Yeah.
So yeah, y'all are always fixing stuff for me. It's great. If you want to take a question from the audience, Lava
We
Being,
do.
I think, has a really good one. They ask, are all of the books of an AP edited together? And if not, how do you maintain consistency between each book in an adventure over the course of a potentially lengthy process?
This is such a good question.
It
Mhm.
is.
you.
Kieran, do you want to give it a first shot? I'll add. Or
I will, because I would love to use it as a seamless transition into a short little anecdote that involves you.
Uh-oh.
uh-oh.
No, in a great way. In a great way. I was just spelling it out. First of all, yeah, great question. And the big answer is no. We do not edit it all at once, because it does not come into us at once, and it is not all ready for us at once. So absolutely, one of the big things that we are working to do all the time is make sure that everybody involved in the process is on the same page, that we have a consistent style guide for the AP. Literally, okay, like in Fly Free or Die, you know, the crew introduced in volume 2, the crew of the Wintermorn, I had to confirm with Jake a couple of times because it got lost, and I was like, okay, how are we spelling Wintermorn? Is it like mourn like morning? Is it mourn like it's dead? Is it mourn with an E at the end? And
Or the
just
friggin' article. The article.
Literally,
exactly.
Is it the
just
Wintermorn or is it Wintermorn? And let's change
Exactly.
it every volume. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
those little things like that that it's just, you know, there is a degree to which somebody might look at that and say, that doesn't matter that much. But as soon as you're in the weeds and, you know, looking at the thing down to the nitty gritty, and those are the kinds of details that you need to catch and need to keep consistent, just so that everybody knows what you're talking about. But my favorite example of this has to do, in Fly Free or Die specifically, has to do with character voice. Because that can be one of the trickiest things, at least for me personally, because I'm really focusing on narrative. I want to make sure that all the characters keep sounding like themselves, and also aren't all sounding like me or sounding like the dev or whatever. And Leo was absolutely the person that I turned to over the course of the rest of Fly Free or Die, specifically for Tarika, everybody on Twitter's newest favorite otter, with a spanner wrench. And because Leo, obviously, you know, Leo's from Nebraska. Leo knows how to get that perfect twang in there, and sometimes the other folks had some trouble. Not always, not everybody.
Sure.
But
accents are difficult in text because you can
They
so
really
easily
are.
overdo it or underdo it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I tell a quick? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
So a quick Tarika story is that to answer the question too, and kind of expand, is that while we get each individual volume of an AP separately, there is an outline that a developer constructs that the writers get that all work together, that draws everything together. And so there is a skeleton underneath, and then we're kind of getting each organ, or like, you know, the head, the shoulders, etc., as we put the whole body of the volume together. But it does, you know, raise some concerns. And I think we're human and we make mistakes too. The first volume uses the Wintermorn or whatever, the article or not later, but it's inconsistent throughout that AP. But like Kieran said, that was one of those things that it's like, well, we'd love it. We'd love for the polish to be there, but you know, things happen. But the big things are what we try to track. And when I was writing volume 2, a lot of the authors in Discord, we were on Discord just talking about characters. And BJ Hensley, who wrote volume 1, and I spent a lot of time, probably a ridiculous amount of time I should have spent writing instead of talking about characters, just concepting Tarika. And I will say my vision for Tarika is based off, she's going to hate me for this, but my best friend's mom, Jenny Hagen, because this is a woman who could take a semi apart from scratch and has like 6 or 7 adopted children as well. And is just sort of a woman of the world. We'll put it that way. And I saw this Brenary, Tarika, this otter person, as someone. I believe we wrote her with several children as well, and kind of got into her wife, and we had this great conversation about Tarika, and it really boiled down to, what would Jenny Hagen do almost every time? How would Jenny Hagen talk? What would she do? What would that, and I could hear Jenny, because my best friend from college, I spent a lot of time at their farm. I could hear Jenny talk, and I just go, oh, okay. And when I ran, I think I do it for y'all the other day, I was like, well, doesn't that just put a pickle in your pudding? I mean, like that. That's Eureka. And she's there, and she lives here, and she comes out sometimes, and she gives you missions, and you go on them, and yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Tarika for me, that's a great example, Kieran.
I was going to ask if that's how you're able to switch her on so effectively whenever I'm like, I'm just going to call her on my phone that I have and, and ask her this really obvious question. Like, hey, Tarika, what do we do with 5 tons of berries?
I just turn the dial and I go, Jenny, okay, we're ready. And that's Tarika.
Did you ever like call her during the process to be like, tell me what you would do if theoretically you had to tell a bunch of kids to move 5 tons of berries across a planet?
So fun fact, if Jenny Hagen could pick any best friend for her son, it probably wouldn't have been me. And that's okay. Like, I love Jenny, but like, she was like, oh, you are a bad influence on my son sometimes. But that being said, no, I didn't. I kind of wish I would have now. I did consult a lot of friends. So I also wrote, when I was writing Merchant of the Void, as Kieran mentioned, we wrote the crew of the Wintermorn. And while I did the original work there,
how do you spell that?
Yeah, MOURN.
Look it up.
But when we wrote the crew, so I wrote my first. I'm a firm believer that characters, especially in Fly Free or Die, should mirror how I think the teams that I work with and I think of Starship crews like I do people who like developing teams and editing teams and people, and they're diverse and they have a lot of different perspectives. And so as I explored who Jinx was, the pilot for the crew, I said, Jinx is deaf. I know Jinx is deaf. And a lot of Jinx's life was sort of defined by that, but in the way that anyone who overcomes challenges in their life and learns to live with who they are, it wasn't the only thing about him. And I think sometimes with characters, it's easy to sort of like make it tropish, right? And I wanted that to be a part of it. But to do that well, I needed help. And so I have a friend who's an audiologist who specifically works with deaf people. And she connected me to some people who could give me reads of the character. And I will say that feedback was so valuable. And Jake and I talked a lot about how to incorporate that feedback in other volumes too, and just make sure the character stayed consistent throughout Fly Free or Die. So anyway, yeah, it's sorry, we covered a lot of things with the answer to that question, but great question.
Don't we always?
Yeah,
don't you always? Well, we have another question if you're up to it. Also from Lava Being, asking a copy editing question. What are the difficulties melding art assets and written content, given your ability to more easily steer one more than the other?
Do Paizo editors do copy editing like that?
Or is that a different team?
Sure. No, we do.
Yeah,
okay.
We do. Usually it's easier to change the art, or excuse me, the written assets, right? Mm-hmm. So like, and we'll see that a lot. Character says they have brown eyes in a text, and the art comes over blue. Guess what changes? We don't take that back to art. The character now gets blue eyes. So
congratulations, character. You now have blue eyes.
So copy. And now we always see, that's why collaboration, to Vanessa's point, and trust is so important, because I don't just make that change. That's even something as small, so to speak, as like an eye color. I need to say to the dev, hey, is it cool that we changed the eye color? Because the art came over wrong, and I just want to make sure the spirit of the character, and what that usually draws out is, oh, well, there's 50 mentions of the eye color, Leo. Do you want to change it?
I mean, there's that joke about being a brown-eyed girl.
Yeah,
so...
right. Yeah. Or sometimes
the song plays.
we named their starship after a joke someone made about their eyes once. Can we really do that? And there are those details sometimes that it's like, no, we actually do need to send it to art now. Because
this reminds me of my group's favorite story in Age of Ashes, which is there's an NPC who has a picture. He's like a Hell Knight, and he's got a picture of him with like this beautiful ornate greatsword, and then in the text, in the block text, it describes him as being a halberd wielding member of the Order of the Pike. and so like literally for the rest of existence, if anybody in any of the game, anyone who was in that group plays with a greatsword, it always is, are you sure you don't mean a halberd? Are you sure it's not actually? I'm like, no. But then sometimes it's my fault and I start the joke, and then what are you gonna do?
What do you mean sometimes? I'm willing to guess that's like 90% of the time.
I mean, you can't prove that.
I can't prove it, but it's headcanon at the very least.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, we have, this is, if you break down editing down into sort of stages, we will look over the scripts that come in as sort of just text files, and then dev and art have their passes for laying it out, copy fitting it, and then we will do post layout passes. And yes, a lot of that is looking at art and looking at the words and just sobbing and being like, why don't you play nice together? Please, please, why did this strange potted plant in this man's arms just decide to cause an extra line break for no apparent reason on the other side of the page? And then we just kind of go ask art and say, hi, can we fix this? And then they do. But no, absolutely, for the most part, we are looking to change the text first, because that is so much easier. It's so much quicker to change. Yeah.
How do you feel about horizontal slashes and large angelic wings?
Oh, that really, I suppose it depends on how angelic the wings are.
Okay. Like if they're truly angelic, it's worth the effort.
It's funny you say that.
Absolutely.
It's funny you say that, Alex, because I've seen more problems with wings than I have almost anything. Like, as I think about like wings being the wrong color, or wings being too large and like sort of like sticking awkwardly out. Like maybe it's just that so many creatures in Pathfinder and Starfinder have wings, but wings can be problematic. That and arms, multiple arms.
So many arms.
Yeah.
It's all the Skittermander's fault.
It is the Skittermander's fault. I was thinking of the awkwardness when like the wings are going out horizontally in like this direction in like a V shape. And so, but then the art is big enough that you have to put it in the middle of the page. So all of the text funnels downward towards their head. It's like, and I'm like, ooh, that wing.
The challenging part of that, if for anybody who wants to look at one of these books, one of these spreads at home, is look at how evenly all of those pretty words are spaced around those giant wings, and know that at least one, and usually roughly 3 people stared at that as there were just single words like concurrently that just took a whole line, and there were 5 years between each letter.
Oh no.
And we just look at it and go, okay, well, time to change some words and make it all look nice.
The best is the cascade that happens. Like the other day I caused a 36 line cascade by adding one word. One word, and the whole document went 36 lines. And now let's say, you're a senior editor, a managing editor, or just you're working at Paizo, you're an editor, somebody interrupts you or asks you a question and you forget what word you added that caused the cascade. Now suddenly you've got a new fun problem. Adventures in copy fitting.
Control Z. Just Control Z.
Sure, Control Z's your friend. Absolutely. Another tactic we use is we PDF. We will keep PDFs, backup PDFs before we begin work. And then I can just open that and go, oh, what was copy fit here before? So let's try this. And I might not even find the exact word, but I'll find the thing that fixes it. And that's all I needed.
Okay.
My personal favorite as an add-on to that is when you delete a word and then it adds 36 lines. That's my favorite part.
That's fair. Yeah.
Oh no.
You delete a word and it adds 36? Yes. How does that even...
Listen,
I'm the math lady gift right
InCopy,
now.
Adobe InCopy is a beautiful program that we love very much, and works on a level that follows, I think, different laws of physics than ours. So it's a challenge. It's like if we were working with beings from a different plane.
Sure, this is copy editing in the drift.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There is a technical explanation for it that has a lot to do with kerning and leading. I was trained. I started as a draft board editor is how I trained in high school. So you remember you had to like actually put the thumbnails. You had to do layout on an actual page, and then you take those, make plates, and then that's how layout happened. I'm old enough to know how to do that, and then you take it into PageMaker or whatever. So copy fitting is a terrible mystical science, like Kieran said.
Yeah,
it's technomancy. Art. It's technomancy. Yeah,
it is. It's machine whispering more than anything else.
Oh, that's true.
That good question though.
And word massaging.
Yeah, the Alpha Being's really been killing it. I should let you know, just to shame him, that our very own Dustin Knight has basically been trolling chat with questions such as, having an editor means we freelancers don't have to review our own work at all before submitting our first draft final turn-in, right?
You shouldn't listen to Dustin. let my X number of years of experience tell you don't listen to that advice. That's really bad advice. That's Dustin trying to trying to cull the competition, so there are a few going for those Paizo jobs.
Yeah. Nothing will make me your friend faster. I mean, I messaged Mike Kimmel, our new organized play developer, today because a piece of work that I edited was so clean, like miraculously, and I needed it. Honestly, I needed clean editing today. It was the type of day I had. And so I messaged Mike and I was like, whoever that writer was, like, one, did you work on it a lot? And Mike was like, oh, a little, yeah, here and there. I was like, hire them again, please. Because I needed that. So the opposite is true. And I know Dustin's trolling, but if you do get a chance to freelance, editing beforehand, if you have time, and we get it, it's a fast-paced sort of situation, but boy, if something comes over strong and clean and on word count, you will make people very happy.
There is little better that you can do for your professional career as a freelance writer in this, or really any medium, than making editors super happy to read your stuff. Leo is 100% right. When work with issues comes in, it can always be for a variety of different reasons. We talked about earlier, it's collaborative, the problems cascade and all those kinds of things. But really clean work always catches our eye, and we absolutely make a note of it with OP, with the AP devs, with Eleanor and Louise, saying like, hey, this was gorgeous, like hire this person again, because of course, why wouldn't we? We want our books to be pretty, and also meaning giving us more time to focus on the other stuff is awesome.
All the other lenses. Yes.
Less time changing freelancer words, more time balancing angel wings. Got it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, that's a testament to Jake for Fly Free or Die. Like, because of Jake's strong development work, I think he freed Kieran up in a way as an editing lead to get in the weeds of the story and to contribute, because if something doesn't read well, right? Like if that part is broken, we can't apply as many of the other lenses. So, and we have to be just straight up more copy editors. And I will say that's usually when we're unhappiest, frankly, because, we love words. That's why we're doing what we want to do. But we also have a passion for developing the product just like anybody else. So it's that's a way to help us. And knowing what style guide, here's a freelancer tip. I'm going to give this, I'm not even going to charge it. Here's a freelancer tip to everyone out there in the world, is know what style guide your target company that you want to work for uses. Ask them, reach out to their editing team. If it's Chicago Manual Style or whatever it is, learn that style. And then if you use it, editors will feel really, really good because you're using Oxford commas. In our case, you're using articles in the right places. You're using prefixes. I will tell you the amount of pre's I have to dehyphenate because Chicago Manual of Style says don't hyphenate pre. Just let it, even if the word wouldn't naturally do it, you can just let pre and re work for you as long as you're not changing the word. If you do that, those are the little things I'm going to notice and really like you for.
That is really cool.
All right, no hyphen after pre and re. Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
That point that, yeah, Leo's point about like giving me time. Absolutely, I'm so grateful to Jake for all the stuff that he did on Fly Free or Die. I'm gonna, we've talked about all sorts of different metaphors here, lenses, other things that it's not coming up. I'm gonna throw another one in there, which is just sort of I think about editing passes and things like that as grits of sandpaper a lot, right? So we can the smoother it comes in, the more polished that it can get, right? So yeah, I absolutely like Fly Free or Die is as good as it is, not only from the strength of all of the authors, but the strength of the dev work that then allowed me to sort of take the bird's eye view back from it, especially as somebody who doesn't play a lot of these, and said like, what would make me interested? What is something that I'm curious about exploring using these systems, and push towards that and said like, hey, we can do this. I can take the time to do this because the other people have paved the way to make this easier for me.
Yeah.
And that's always, it makes it more fun, right? It's a cooler product to read. It's more fun to kind of discuss and figure out how you feel about it when there's more stuff going on. But all of that takes all sorts of kinds of time. First you got to make it unbroken.
First, you got to make it unbroken.
So one thing that I wanted to take a minute to have you to talk about, this is a relatively new development as far as I'm aware. Kieran, your official title is Starfinder editor, correct?
Actually, no, but that's okay.
Okay.
I am actually focusing more on Pathfinder, and yes, part of Leo's grand machinations for the editing department is having everybody focus kind of more on various parts of the product process.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to be focusing a lot on Pathfinder narrative stuff predominantly. Hopefully, with besides herding cats and putting out fires, which comes with the territory of editing.
So this changes post Fly Free or Die then, which would make sense because I think you mentioned, Leo, that you became managing editor after the Fly Free or Die project, right?
Yeah, I mean the last couple volumes. Roughly. Yeah, like the last couple volumes I edited, but I think Judy transitioned at about 37. So let's see, 34, 35, 36, 37. So about
last two-ish.
Yeah. That's about when we transitioned.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the new hierarchy of editing? I don't know if you have a fancier name than that for it.
Yeah, we're working it out. I mean, we've got an idea, and like every idea, it needs iteration and testing. But one of the things that we noticed on our team is that, so like I kind of referenced that 120-page style guide, and I'm not lying in Pathfinder's case. Like it's you all have used it. You've written for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
And now Starfinder stuff. Yeah. And it's in my opinion, it's way too darn big and needs a lot of trimming. But that style guide, here's a fun war story. So Liz Liddell will tell you that working on the core rulebook for Pathfinder and Starfinder, she worked on both, was a little bit like building a airplane engine in the dark, because when you get with a bunch of people, so imagine you're standing in a circle and you're all working together to build a jet plane engine. That's sort of what editing a core rulebook is, because there's no style guide. There's no one to tell you how the book should work.
Right.
And so you
Making
are
it up as you
reading
go.
it. Yeah, you're reading it, synthesizing and saying, what are the patterns that make sense for the way we want this book to look, the way we want it to feel, and you're retroactively sort of build, and that's not completely true. Like the designers have their own style guide, but like the final style guide that really influences how the work happens is done that way. Shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Airplane engines in the dark.
Yes.
I don't know if that helps.
But back to the process. So we need, frankly, there's too much going on as far as like onboarding a new editor and saying, hey, learn all these stuff, because our editors are not like developers at Paizo. I don't know if y'all know that. So like, Luis Loza specializes on the Lost Omens line. Joe Piscini is a designer, specializes on Starfinder, and John Compton is Starfinder. The editors aren't arranged that way right now. We work on, you have to not only be have strong knowledge of Pathfinder, you have to have strong knowledge of Starfinder and some of our other products as well. And you have to know both style guides and interchangeably. And so one of the ideas I had as I became managing editor is, boy, the developers seem to benefit a lot from focusing and listening to our team members too. So we're going to slowly kind of move people to focus on product line, and the positions, the titles might not reflect that, but the roles, so to speak, what they do in the day-to-day will. So yeah, we're moving folks, and our newer senior editors that were promoted reflect that. Lou Pelzar is our senior editor assigned to the Starfinder line, and Avi Cool is assigned to the Pathfinder line. And then the other editors will work either as finishing editors, primarily finishing in that they're doing post layout passes, checking formatting, looking at the product after it's been laid out, or doing what we're calling narrative passes, where we do story editing, copy editing. People don't realize how much style editing actually happens in a pre-layout pass when it's in Word. If something is strongly style edited before it gets to post layout, it looks way better. So those just basically helping people focus on their role and focus on the style guide that is their domain is kind of where we're transitioning our team for the future. But I will say we've got a few moving parts to figure out as we figure that out. I suspect probably by Q2 is when we're really going to be there. Like any plan, it met the enemy the first time, and it didn't go as fast as I wanted it to, but we're getting there. And I'm very confident that we're getting there, and we'll be there soon. So
it's really exciting for me, just as a team member as well, to know that I'm going to be focused. I'm focusing more on the stuff that I'm really good at. Like I've said multiple times, it's no secret I don't have a huge array of tabletop experience, but lots of editors. I mean, Leo, of course, Avi, Ianara, they're people who have DM'd and run full campaigns and everything. So the ease with which they get all of the little rules stuff is so much higher than mine coming to it as a newbie. And I do my best, and I think I catch stuff every once in a while at the very least. But I know that my strength is in making sure things flow well and hang together as sort of a cohesive unit. And that I can do that work a lot better the easier or the earlier in the process that I get my grubby little hands on something. So yeah, it's gonna be good. Q2, the new books. It's gonna be a whole new editing team. It's gonna be great.
That's really exciting.
So wait, you're telling me that you don't want to have to remember whether it's society or culture in your game?
Right. This one. Why did we do this? Here's one. Intimidate and intimidation. It's intimidate in Starfinder. It's intimidation in Pathfinder 2. Now it was the answer to that question. I'm one of the editors on our team that edited Pathfinder 1. Is that Starfinder had more legacy in a way to Pathfinder 1 and in the way that it derived, and P2 kind of got a full new development that said, okay, we're going to rename some of the skills. And so intimidation happened. So we have intimidate and we have intimidation. We also have lowercase hardness in Starfinder, capital hardness in Pathfinder. I could go on, but there's
He really could go on.
Lava Being would like one of you to explain what a level is.
It's a thing that makes sure everything is flat.
Yeah,
Um,
It
you got
doesn't.
it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tool often used by carpenters
mhm.
to make sure that floors don't roll.
Yeah, that's a
Am
level.
I
Other than
am
that,
I
it's
just
made
so
up.
obtuse? I don't understand that question. Like I feel like I know what a level is. Do you really want me to tell you how
No,
experience
no, no.
points and-
There's an old there's an old Order of the Stick joke where the entire gag is they're talking about going down the level to like the next floor of the dungeon.
But I thought we just went up a level, but
Yeah,
we're
they
going
just got
down a
enough experience
level.
to go up a
Good.
level. Why
Got
would we
it.
go down a level?
Yeah.
It's literally like a whole like
I think it's
Yeah,
like
you
their
almost sit
second
down.
comic. It's their
Yeah.
first or second one. It's pretty terrible.
I've read some Order of
That's
the Stick,
beautiful.
but not a lot. So good to know.
Yeah, it's some quality jokes, but there's also like 1,000 of those strips. If you don't have time to read it all, I don't blame you. It's like trying to tell somebody that they really should get into Supernatural. It's like, yeah, but
Yeah, it's a lot. It's really good, but it's a lot.
How many
Mhm.
years do you have?
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
What will you
basically.
devote to this show?
How much of your soul will you give up to be part of this fandom?
Speaking of giving up your soul to be part of this fandom, if folks want to keep in touch with you in nigh public spaces, what is the best way to do so?
I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
Leo Glass writes. Feel free, follow me, tweet me. That's probably the easiest way to keep in touch with me right now.
Cool.
You know, every time
I
I
am-
see that, I think it says Legolas,
It
I-
is. It looks a lot like it.
right?
I've made that.
I
popular.
have seriously thought about changing it to Leonce because that's what Sean K. Reynolds calls me every time he sees me at Gen Con. Because
Oh, no.
that's another story. But anyway, I almost
Leo
changed it
kept
to
us
Leonce.
sane. Leo kept us sane during the initial part of lockdown by every week changing his name in our chat software to a
It's
different variation. There were a lot of really good ones.
Leo Pleurodon. Yeah.
Leo Pleurodon, very good. Oh man, I'm blanking entirely. However, I am also on Twitter. I post too much, and probably not enough too. I am at Kieran_Tessa. You can find me there. I tweeted about this, so you'll know if you have the right place.
I in fact double checked. I did find the right place. I have linked it in chat and I have followed you because I could not find you previous to this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Hooray.
Well, you're welcome. All right.
And
Cool.
Vanessa, where can our fans follow us if they don't know already?
Oh, and if you want to see and hear and read more things from No Direction Network, you can check us out at nodirectionpodcast.com, where you will find not only links to this show and our parent show, No Direction Prime, as we call it, but a cornucopia of different actual play podcasts of other shows, including Legend Lore, where they talk about the Pathfinder rules system, and you will even get tons and tons of blog content from a variety of authors on a variety of content, all gaming related, most of which is Finder flavored, but not all. Some of it is just good old-fashioned, hey, this is good for RPGers. You can also join us in this conversation as it continues beyond the confines of this show on our Discord server, which is one of the least toxic places, I would even say a non-toxic place, to discuss gaming on the internets. And I think those are the... Oh, and the last thing, and to some people the most important, but certainly not me, is our Patreon. So if you think that this show is the bee's knees and want to have us produce more of this fantastic content, you can become a patron and support us at Patreon, and those links are also on our website.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Do we have time for me to say one quick thing that I really
Yes.
wish I would have said
Nope,
earlier?
good night, bye. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you're fine.
So the best Starfinder typo I've ever, because this is what I should have answered instead of the Dire Rat story. The best Starfinder typo I've ever caught, luckily before it went to print, was shark
That we know about.
ship.
Was
Shark
what?
ship.
Shark ship.
Instead of starship,
Shark.
there was a shark ship.
Oh no.
Shark ship?
That
Shark,
if that went
S-H-A-R-T, ship.
Oh,
if that went to print,
sure.
that would sure stink. That's for sure.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes. and I have stories about shark ships because of that. But anyway, we caught that, and it was in a map. It's like shark ship. I can't remember what what noun it was modifying, but anyway,
Oh my gosh.
we laughed for a long time about shark ship. So that's the best Starfinder typo I think I've ever caught.
And you
sure.
saved the day.
You saved the day.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well,
Gotta go out.
I can't top that. We gotta end it there.
yeah, we're just gonna end. Thanks for joining us on No Direction Beyond. And oh gosh, we have a sign out, and I don't remember that shark ship just blew it straight out of my brain. Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember.
Okay,
I got it back.
okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us on No Direction Beyond. But until next time, go beyond with No Direction.